So welcome everyone to our first of our Australian FASD Guidelines webinar series, where we will be focusing on simplifying FASD diagnosis with AI for families. I'm Viv Lyle, I'm the project coordinator for the Guidelines project, and presenting this webinar today is Prue Walker, who's a senior social worker and FASD consultant. Prue has extensive clinical experience in diagnostic services and specialises in interpreting complex reports for families, schools, and service providers. Prue was also directly involved in the development of the new Australian FASD guidelines. And we're really excited to have joining us for this webinar, Louise Gray, who is a special advisor with No FASD. She's also previously the organisation's CEO and continues to play a key role in guiding No FASD's work to raise awareness, support families, and strengthen professionals' understanding of FASD across Australia. So Louise will be providing some feedback for us during the webinar on the quality and usefulness of AI responses. And just a bit of housekeeping before Prue gets started. We really hope that this webinar will be really interactive and very conversational. So we really encourage you to get into the chat. Feel free to introduce yourself. And also, as Prue's going along and providing examples of what you can do with AI, we'd really love it if you could post some emojis. I've just posted some examples of what you could use in the chat. Hopefully everyone can see that. So if you don't think it's great, you could give something like a shocked face or something that you think. Thumbs up could mean that looks okay. A love heart can be, that's excellent. So really encourage you to interact with what Prue's going to present, and also please use the Q&A section of the webinar to submit your questions so that we can make sure we answer them. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Viv. Appreciate that. Everything's on. I'm going to share my screen. This is going to be a fairly, well, like Viv said, an interactive workshop. I'm really keen to use any examples that you might post in the chat of things that you would like me to trial in this session. So we're focusing today on how AI tools can be used to help parents and carers understand and interpret a child's FASD assessment. We've just had a workshop for professionals looking at how we can use AI to simplify and interpret guidelines. This one is going to be focused much more on how we can work with children's information and young people's information in an ethical way. I'll just start by acknowledging all the different First Nations people of the lands that you're all joining us on today. I'm on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We want to acknowledge the enduring knowledge and connection to country of all First Nations people and the wisdom, and we want to pay respect to elders past and present and future leaders as well. We recognise all First Nations people as the original health practitioners of these lands, which is particularly important when we're talking about issues like FASD. In this session, I'm going to be looking at how some AI tools can be used to help simplify complex assessment reports. And we're going to be focusing on safe use, ensuring confidentiality and privacy. If people have used AI before, feel free to pop in the chat what you've used and what you've used it for, which tools you might use, and anything that you would like to let us know about your experience with AI. With FASD assessments, I know that parents and carers can often feel really overwhelmed by the amount of detail, and this sometimes gets more difficult over time. You might have a FASD assessment, and then another year later you might have another speech assessment with a bunch of recommendations, and then your paediatrician might write some new recommendations, and you end up with so many reports. And this can create a really big administrative burden on carers, I think. And it requires you to, you know, not just be your child's advocate, but almost like a secretary in a way. So we're going to be looking at sort of common tools. Now, ChatGPT is the one that I'm going to be using today. This is a free tool that is readily available, and you can create a free account to sign in. I'll show you what that looks like. I'm using a free account today, not a paid account. Paid accounts get sort of better results often, but I thought I'd show what's possible with what's readily available to people. If you have a Microsoft subscription, you might also have Microsoft Copilot. I think that can sometimes have an extra cost, but that's also a good option, and that information is more secure. You may, if you're not familiar with using AI tools, you probably use Google. I think everyone's used Google. And when I ask Google, are you using AI? Yes. The first answer to every Google question now is an AI overview. So we're all using AI, even though we're not aware of it. Or we may not be noticing that this is the first answer we're getting is what has been generated by Google's AI tool. Some of the benefits for parents and carers are the speed at which AI can summarize information, the usefulness of simplifying really complex information and explaining things that are tailored to you. It can be very accurate when we ask the right questions, when we give it information and ask it to interpret things, and when we don't stretch its limitations too much. It's really good at rewriting information in different voices or for different purposes. Some of the things that AI can help parents and carers with are simplifying diagnostic reports. So, you know, what does all this mean? What do I make of all this information? What does it mean that my child has got, you know, slower visual processing than verbal processing? What is that going to mean for them? It can help us create summaries. You know, people have to often share information about their child, but what you share with your teacher might be different to what you want to share with the respite carer versus what you want to share with the soccer coach. You know, so being able to quickly get a tool to write a summary that is suitable for that person in their role with the right level of information, this can be a really good solution. It also allows us to take information and think, what would that mean in a different setting? It can extrapolate from the information we have and summarize how this might affect someone in a school setting. It can, if you are in the situation of lots of different reports with lots of different exhaustive recommendations, it can integrate them. It can even update them. You can say, these assessments were done 4 years ago. Can you update the assessments? My child is now 12 and I need some new strategies. And it can also really help by reducing workload and turning information into the right format for the NDIS or to fill in forms. And I'll give you a couple of examples. In form filling, we have, you know, a couple of examples that I'm going to work through in this session. On the right is I found this online, it's from an American clinic, so it's no one particular, but it's an occupational therapy application form, and they ask for your therapy goals. And these are the sorts of questions, if you've just had your child go through and have a FASD assessment, you've got to write all these answers again. And you're probably inclined to say, see attached report. But the people at the occupational therapy might say, we still need you to, you know, fill this form in. We're not going to sort through your child's report. You need to put things under the right headings. We also have, you know, many NDIS forms that are needed, application forms, carer impact statements, and there's a great deal of potential time that AI can save you by converting information. It's not going to necessarily fill the form in for you, but it will help you get the information into a way that you can cut and paste it in. And I think it can really reduce the burden on carers of continually talking about their child's deficits or impairments or struggles, and make it just a quick summary of information that we've already got in a Word document that we're just repurposing. We'll be talking a bit about the prompts that we put in. For those who aren't familiar with these, a prompt is whatever you type into AI. It's the question or instruction. The window that I use in ChatGPT really doesn't look much different to a Google search, and we can use it in pretty much the same way. But the more specific your prompt or question is, the more useful and accurate the information will be. You can also use the microphone function, and this can be quite a conversational thing. I'll have a go at doing this and show you how it can work. And that's something that, you know, if you're a carer, if you're working with a carer who perhaps isn't very confident using computers, it could be a good tool. And I suspect over the next couple of years, voice control and AI will kind of become a lot more seamless. You won't have to go into the window, you'll just talk to your phone, kind of a bit like Alexa now, but with a bit more AI behind it, or Siri, or whatever you're using. And you can test this out by just using some everyday examples. Some of the concerns that people have about AI, it makes things up. How can we trust it? You might have heard of AI inventing information that isn't true. We don't always know where it gets its information from. And people also worry about, you know, accidentally sharing confidential information. We'll talk through how to avoid that, but I think first looking at the accuracy, AI can be useful, but it's not always 100% accurate. What we find is that the paid services, if you're paying for ChatGPT Plus or Copilot Enterprise, they get better results. When we put information into them, they can remember it for longer. But when we use free ChatGPT, it has a very short memory. It can't hold information in mind for more than 2 to 3 questions. So those of you who know about FASD, I think about it as the working memory. Free ChatGPT has a very short working memory. It can remember things about as long as you can remember someone's phone number, long enough to use it. But if you want to keep talking to it and getting more information, you need to give it the information again, and in a fresh chat. If you go back to an old chat and you keep typing, after the session's sort of refreshed, it won't remember what you've pasted into it or what you've copied into it. It makes things up. These are called hallucinations, which I like that word. It wants to please you. So if you can't find something, sometimes it'll make something up. It'll make up the perfect reference or the perfect resource that actually doesn't exist. This is much more common in free versions than in paid versions. So we can work around this by asking Chat to be very specific and to give it information and say, only use this information when you're giving me an answer. The good thing, though, is that it actually knows quite a lot about FASD, and it knows about what FASD informed care looks like, and it can give excellent advice. I use it a lot as a tool with families and carers and teachers to show the potential, and I have been very impressed with the level of information. I think it's due to the fact that there's a growing body of work about FASD that is online that AI has learnt from. But to get the best reliable information, I think I've mentioned this earlier, you say use only this document, or if you really are using this a lot, it can be worth getting a paid version. If you would like to respond to things, we're keen to hear from you, what you think of some of the answers as we go through, but I'm going to go and do a bit of a demonstration now. First, I'm going to quickly touch on the privacy and confidentiality thing, because we are going to be using a report. If this was really a child's report, the report that I've got is an assessment report for a child that's entirely fictional. AI helped me actually write this, but it's based on a typical FASD assessment. So we have Lucas is the child, we have his background, he lives with his aunt. It goes through what his aunt says about him and what she's experiencing. It talks about his developmental history, etc. All of this, and we'll be using this. But ChatGPT, especially the public version, is not at all safe for private information, because AI will use that to learn from. A paid version, you can create a temporary chat that's not saved. I might even be able to do it in this one actually, up here. If you turn on temporary chat, it turns off the learning. But it's still, I wouldn't share anything that really was, personal details. If anyone is working somewhere where you have, Microsoft 365, a business subscription, not the private one, I think, but the business one, these are hosted in secure environments. I work at Monash Health, and Monash Health has Copilot, and we are entirely encouraged to use that for analysing clinical information. The information is stored in Australia according to Australian health privacy laws, and so it is considered confidential. But I would encourage you, if you have a paid subscription, have a look at the privacy settings. You can even ask your AI version, what level of privacy they have. What I've learned recently is chat, the regular version for one person, $20 US a month. It's not entirely private. The business version, $25 a month, but you've got to have 2 people. This has privacy. Data is never used for training. And that's the level that you really want to be looking at if you're going to be putting in private information. But we can do quite well with de-identified information. So by taking out names, dates of birth, things like that, summarising things, we can use these reports. So this is what I'm going to show you as an example. If I was going to de-identify Lucas's report, I would probably change his date of birth a little bit, change these names. I would do a, find, replace Lucas and change it to something else. But because this is already de-identified, I'm going to use it as it is. So what I've got here, this is a free version of chat. I'm signed in, and we can turn on the temporary chat if we want to, but because this is, there's nothing private here, I'm not going to worry about that. So what I'm going to do is put Lucas's report in here, his diagnostic report, and I'm going to say, ask chat to write a parent-friendly summary of this assessment, summarising strategies and next steps for the family. So this is a pretty general prompt and a lot of detail. And we'll see what sort of results it gives us. So it's starting out with some positives. It's starting out with his strengths, which is good. And AI will do this without being asked. It knows that that is what is good practice in this sort of report. We start with strengths. It's given his diagnosis, and it's given a sort of a friendly explanation of how that works. And it's interesting, it's using pretty familiar language, brain-based differences, not behaviours he can simply try harder to change. Now I'm going to be asking Louise to comment on this, and I'm wondering, Louise, if we go along, feel free to jump in. What do you think about this sort of language? Is this the language that you would use at No FASD? You're on mute still, Louise.
Gobsmacked, Prue.
Really?
Yes, I think I'm very grateful I had an opportunity to have some discussion with you last week, because I think if I hadn't, I would have looked like a bunny rabbit stuck in the headlights right now, because it, the World Wide Web changed things for FASD, and there's no doubt that when it became possible to put stuff and share it across the world, it improved things for families living with FASD. But I think this is like, the second major game changer. And it's, I mean, that is exactly what you would be wanting to give. I guess I don't want to take away from where you're going next too, but I do
no,
think
not
that
at all.
from family points of view and summary, obviously you've hit the nail on the head with the points that you must be aware of. And I think being careful of your platform and being aware of what the security issues around that are, and or de-identifying, like those surrounding questions must be addressed. But having sort of done that as you've done and explained really well, I think for Lucas, that's an amazing series of next steps. And, obviously you used great prompts in creating Lucas, though I think, as you would say, it was probably AI that does it because it is
Yeah,
learning,
yeah,
it is getting clever. But Lucas is very recognizable, even though he's, a made up person, he is certainly
yeah.
recognizable. So, yeah, I think that as this session continues, people will
Mm-hmm.
see, viewers and participants will just see more and more of how it could be used in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the point I would like to make, though, having your very first slide, which showed the overwhelm that parents and carers experience, that is so real. And I
Yeah.
do think that any parents and carers who are listening who feel, "Oh, this is just one more thing that I have to worry about," when they're already totally overwhelmed by expectations, I think step away and take a breath, but slowly and surely, I do think this is going to change lives because you won't have to repeat things so
Mm-hmm.
many times. You won't have to face that exhaustion of writing something up for the school, which is different to for
Yeah.
a paediatrician referral, etc., etc.
I'm glad to hear you say that, Louise, and I think the same. I think that AI can really help us sift through and get to exactly what's going to help that parent in that particular moment, in that particular setting, because we have a lot of information online about FASD, and eventually it becomes repetitive because it is all based on, often similar frameworks. Being able to apply it to a situation is something that I think AI can offer, and I'll do a couple of examples where we try to go through that. Just looking at the strategies, I mean, these to me look like pretty good typical strategies for children with FASD.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're
Yeah.
absolutely, and the consideration that you could look at having personalized, tailored strategies rather than more generic
Yes.
ones.
Yeah.
That are very applicable. And I think that the human has a role still in the use of this sort of thing. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
the human has a different role, and I guess it's the oversight role of just double checking that text, because the topic of
Yes.
hallucinations by AI is very real. But
Yes.
I suspect that as more models, more large language models use more and more FASD information, they'll get better at it and
It'll
probably
get
do it
better.
less.
It can generalize a bit too much, but I think in this way, this is a good initial summary. Often recommendations in FASD assessments can be a little bit generic anyway. You would want to go through Lucas's and see, to what degree they've really been tailored for him. So it's given a nice sort of summary at the end here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop in another prompt, and I'm going to see if this was, if Lucas was Aboriginal, what we would do differently. So I've got a prompt here that asks it to explain, I'm going to say Lucas's. Oh, whoops, sorry, it went through too fast.
While you're doing that,
It's still
Prue,
done it anyway. Yes.
I was just going to say one of the participants has made the comment that AI will also be a reliable indicator to professionals that what parents and carers are saying is in fact correct.
Yes.
That will resonate with every parent and carer
Yes.
of a child or an adult with FASD, because
Yeah.
it is one of the most frustrating aspects of trying to explain
Yes. The
the disability.
advocacy. I 100% agree. I think professionals also need to get confident in AI. And in the earlier webinar we had, which will also be recorded for people to watch later, we talked about testing AI with something you know a lot about so that you can evaluate the responses. And it could be anything. It could be cooking, or it could be dogs, or whatever your topic is that you know a lot about, and see how accurate the information is that's coming back. And that's how you can kind of assess your version of AI and whether it's giving you good, reliable information. but it's given us here a summary that could be used for his Aboriginal grandmother. It's still quite wordy. You might say, I would like this to be a bit shorter. It's using friendly language. It hasn't done a particularly thorough job of, you know, what it means for him to be an Aboriginal child with FASD, but it's tweaked its language a little bit. I think we could probably do a lot more with that, but I'll just, you know, I think we won't take that example any further. I think I'll do one more thing. I'll say, can you summarize this in one page for a carer with I'm going to say year 8 English language skills. One of the beauties of AI is you can write something and you can turn into 3 or 4 different levels of English proficiency with almost no effort on our part. So now we have a shorter, simpler summary. You might want it to be even shorter than this for a family member. So that's one thing that we can do with this. I'm now going to, I'm going to start a new chat because, as I said, AI forgets. I'm going to re-upload Lucas's report in here. Why isn't it going? Come on, Lucas, go in there. Copy it over there. It's not copying. I don't know why that's not working. Really doesn't want to do it. I'll do this, but I'm gonna you know what's happened? I've uploaded enough documents that I've used my allowance of free uploads. I did too much practicing today. Yeah, I have to wait 24 hours to add more files now. Look at that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap over to another window, and I'm going to use the paid version now. Sorry, everyone.
It's a good real lifetime example though, Prue.
Exactly. See, you know what? I did too many practices this morning with the free version. I should have kept my memory available. But not everyone can afford a paid version. So I'm going to put this report in again. And this time I'm going to say, I'm going to ask it to write a summary for the NDIS application of his functional domains. Okay, so one of the challenges with FASD assessments are we focus on areas of impairment, you know, the 9 domains, or in the past 10 domains. But the NDIS areas of functional impairment overlay those, you know, communication, self-care, all of those things. They don't correspond instantly to different domains. So let's see what it can produce for us. And anyone who's ever filled in an NDIS application or a review report will know that it takes a lot of effort to get these under the right heading. So what it's doing now is it's giving us a functional summary across these domains. So the first one is communication, social interaction, learning, mobility, self-care, self-management, participation, and then we get a summary. We won't go through all the details of what's actually in here because we would need to read this. But if you were Lucas's carer, you would be able to read this and know if it was an accurate description or not. You wouldn't always have to even go back to the report because you would know your child, you would know whether that was true or not. But what a quick way to summarize something and save time that you would otherwise be having to sort of drudge through this to write it up. Now, you might not be writing it up, but if we take, for example, the, I showed you earlier where was it? The form, right? Oh, sorry. if we're having to fill in this form for an OT, I'll show you how we can do that more readily. Now that one we're not using, we're using this one now. I'm going to upload the NDIS. First, I'll do the NDIS form. And I'm going to ask it to fill in the section. And I'm just going to open this up so that you all know what this form looks like. We've got evidence of functional capacity. Now, this is written by the treating professional, but if you have, a limited appointment and you need these things filled in, you can already see that communication, socializing, learning are pretty much covered by these paragraphs here. Now, I'm not suggesting parents should have to summarize these reports and provide it to your doctor or OT or whatever, but you might be working alongside with them to do this. But they may also not know it's possible. What it can do is kind of cut down the number of reports the number of appointments you need, the hours of clinical time to get these forms filled in. If you're working with busy providers who haven't filled in your access report, you might say, look, I've just put in a Word document that aligns to all of these sections here in this access request form. I think there's another section. I'll just go to the earlier section. If you were the parent, what's in that? Not too much here. We've got the overview of disability. But most of this is really completed by the treating professional. What you could do, though, is you could say, I'm just going to put this in anyway, summarize Lucas's report using, sorry, this is my bad typing, using the headings in, what section was it? It was section E. Let's just see what it can give us. So now it's using those exact headings, and what it's doing is it's pulling out the amount of assistance that Lucas needs, not just the impact. It's also using scores out of his assessment. So this could really be a game changer too for families. You don't have to hand rewrite everything about your child for all these different applications. And if you get a FASD assessment and then you don't go back to that clinic, you may not have a professional who is able to do this for you.
Prue, I'll just interrupt you. There's a
Yes.
good question from Cheryl here. Are there concerns with the NDIS if forms are filled out by using AI information?
Yeah. Look, there probably would be if you were just saying to AI, fill in this form. At the moment, you can't really fill the form in. What you would do is you would copy this. You would open up a new Word document, which I'll do here. Sorry. And you would paste that in, and then you would edit it yourself as his parent or carer, and you would then make any changes and you would paste it back in. Now, to me, that's not a form being filled in by AI. You've got every right to use tools to summarize your child's report. This is not, you're not getting marked for originality. You're not trademarking it. You're not publishing it. This is just, sometimes I think about AI as sort of a calculator for words. We're moving words around the page to meet a goal. So I have no qualms about that personally. And I'm sure that if you were doing this as a parent for your own child, you would go, oh, that's not quite right. I need to change that. Perfect. But it might be 20 minutes of changes rather than 2 hours of having to write this from scratch. AI is offering to create a fillable Section E style version. I tend to say no when AI offers to create things because it does not particularly yet do a good job. In a year or two, it'll probably do a much better job, but right now we're not quite there. So I tend to just stick with what's on the page and do a cut and paste of that. Something else that we could do is if we go back to Lucas's report, I'm going to open it. Thanks, Cheryl. Good to have you here. So you have to leave, but we'll look forward to you'll be able to see the recording later on. Thanks for your participation, though. That was great. So I've got Lucas's report here. So what I'm going to copy and paste, I'm going to take the background here. Sorry, just the background section of this. And then I'm going to say, write a parent impact statement for the NDIS for Amanda. And I'm going to just paste this in. That's not bad, is it?
No, it's not bad at
What do you
all.
think, Louise? Talk us through that. What do you think? And please put things in the chat, people.
Well, I mean, I'm only skimming reading. I'm not that fast
Yeah,
at reading.
yeah.
It's in essence, it's sort of doing in kind of like super fast time, almost magic, casting a spell time, what would take someone a hell of a long time to actually write themselves, and then to write it again for another setting or another person would take that time again. So yes, and I think
Exactly.
I'm sure the parents would be wanting to just read it and check that the emphasis is right and that it hasn't hallucinated or added in something. Though
Exactly.
I'm sure, as what you've said, it will get better and better because it's so obvious that AI changes so quickly.
Yeah.
The one thing, it looked like, this is just a technical question,
Yeah,
but
go for it.
you made it look like it's very easy just to cut and paste from AI into, say, a
Yeah.
Word document to edit it. And is that the case?
See this? I'm not sure. Is that highlighting where it says
Yeah,
copy?
it is highlighting, yes. So
So that copies that chat
yeah, and you can put it straight into Word and then you can
straight
do,
into Word.
yeah,
Copy, it's just copy and paste. You can
yeah.
also do, if you don't like it, you can regenerate it. You can also use the share function. You can share that chat with someone. Oh, it's not load. It's a bit slow to load. Maybe it's crashing out on me now. I'll just restart that one. Because I've just restarted. If I had uploaded something, it might have forgotten, but we're in the free version. Oh, Robin likes it. Simone likes it. Thank you for your feedback, people. Now I'm going to show you what's possible. Oh, it knows me. See, I love this.
Yeah.
Always keep
Don't
AI
be
on your
fooled,
side.
Prue.
When it takes over the world, we want to do that. Rochelle's written, you can tell it to create a Word or PDF and it'll give you a link to download. That is very true. What I've found, Rochelle, sometimes is that when it does the Word document, it just shortens it. It doesn't always give me exactly what it gave me the first time, but that's a trial and error thing for yourself. I used to spend a lot of time going, no, keep it the way it was before. I might ask it to improve something and it improves one paragraph, but the first 3 paragraphs kind of drop off. And you'd say, put it back in, and it still doesn't do it right. The number of times I've said, no, you've reworded it and I asked you not to reword it. So I've just sort of cut to the chase now and I just copy and paste the ones that I like. Often the earlier versions are better. I'm not sure what it is. The longer the document gets, the worse it gets at revising it. But now I'm telling you all the negatives. I think it's about using it wisely, short things, new chats. What I'm going to show you though is I'm going to put in something that doesn't rely on a report for anyone. And because it knows who I am, I'm going to say pretend Pretend I'm a carer of an 8-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl who both have FASD. They're constantly hitting each other. I'm exhausted. I want to give up. What can I do? Let's see if it gives us good advice or not. It's giving a lot of empathy. That's nice. Wow, it's giving me quite a lot of positive feedback. Here are some ideas. Focus on safety first. That's good advice. Reduce triggers. Teach by doing. I'll give people a moment just to read through this. Structure, sensory support, all good advice. And then we've got looking after yourself and getting extra support. And it's already offering the next step, which is a daily plan or a calming routine that you could put on the wall or whatever it might be. What do you think, Louise? Any thoughts?
Yes, I mean, it's demonstrating that the proof is in the pudding, really, because that is good advice in that setting.
Yeah.
It is a constant,
Yeah.
those sorts of situations are a constant struggle, but to get simple information like that presented clearly could be very, will be very useful for people. So it, it reinforces what you're saying completely, I think.
What
And I
I'm gonna
haven't
put in
seen,
now.
just skimming through it, I certainly can't see anything that I would go, oh,
Well, that's good. That's the main thing, I think, that nothing leaps out as being immediately not what you would do. And I think that's where my brain would go to.
yeah. One little weird thing I'll just mention though, when it first pulled up No FASD, it somehow managed to dig out our 1300 number, which we haven't used for about 5 years because we have a
Haven't you?
1-800 number.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so
interesting. Good pickup, Louise.
somehow
Thank
from the
you.
depths of, because we've gone out of
Yeah.
our way to get rid of that wretched number.
Is
So
that right?
yeah, and
Is
it's
that
still
right?
found it, but
It
anyway.
must be in the earlier chat. I'll go back and check that later.
Yeah, it
What
was
I'm
in
going
one
to
of
do
the
now.
earliest things when it pulled up the website, which was accurate. I mean, I didn't test the link, but it was accurate in what it said. But it just had, and maybe the 1300 number still works, but it is quite some time since we stopped using it for the 1800 number, which is completely free for
That's
everybody in
interesting, isn't
Australia.
it?
So,
Yes.
yeah,
Well, thank you
but
for
it
putting that in
shows
the
you
chat as
how
well.
deep.
Yes, that's I would probably put the link to No FASD in and say use information directly from this link, but that's really good pickup. That sort of accuracy. What I'm going to put in now is a bit more detailed scenario about this imaginary 8-year-old boy. This isn't particularly Lucas. This is just something you could dictate this in with the microphone here if you wanted to. So I'm just pretending to be a carer, talking about a child, average IQ. I've given a little bit of information, but basically the school is saying he's being really disruptive. They're worried about safety, aggression, etc., like that. What strategies can I suggest to the school? So I'm going to see what it suggests here. And Christine's made the point that it is important to check. And I would agree with that. I think the things that it makes mistakes on are those sorts of details like numbers or websites or references. Again, the more you pay, the better results you get. But it doesn't make as many mistakes about the content when it really learns and understands the content. So now what we've got, AI has given us some practical evidence-based strategies that you could share with the school. So this is the kind of thing that, looks like many sort of, fact sheets that you might be able to download. To me, it's very similar language to what you'd have on the No FASD website, Louise.
Yes, it is. And language-wise, it certainly, seems to be sort of in keeping with the way that situations are described and what the best use of language is. So I guess it's drawing from those language guides that are on websites about talking with people with FASD.
It really is.
and it's applying that information, you know, fairly well accurately from what I can
Exactly.
see.
The problem I think with this is it's writing like it's a professional and it's a little bit bossy. So I'm going to say here, can you write it more in a format for a carer to give to the school? And this is what I've done before. I don't want to tell the school how to suck eggs.
Yes,
How
that's
good it is with
right. Every parent and carer, I think, has had that experience where they have to, act like they know less to guide a
exactly.
professional.
So now it's saying absolutely, and it knows what suck eggs means. I'm going to write in a more respectful, collaborative tone. I'm framing the information as background and ideas, not instructions. So we don't want to put the school off. So now we're getting a whole other tone to things, yeah? Again, this is still a little bit telling them what to do. So if I was a carer, I probably wouldn't include that.
Yeah.
You could then say, what are some specific things I could talk to his OT about doing? Let's just see what it says. So, you know, you might say to the OT, is there anything here you haven't looked at yet? This is what I've sort of generated. I put into AI just to see what it came up with. And I actually think they're good suggestions. You know, it's fine to tell people that you've used AI to write things, but you need to also say, and I think this really does describe him quite well, to show that it's not just, you know, it's not just Dr. Google, it's more about research. So this is one thing that you could do, but I want to try something else here. I'm going to say, I've got a meeting with the school and they want him to go to short days because he's too aggressive and inattentive and parents are complaining. Tell me what the school is going to say to me in this meeting and what can I reply with? And this is where I think we get a lot of the power of AI. So they're telling you where the school's likely to be coming from and how you could reply. We just can't manage his behaviour safely for a full day. I understand safety is the top priority. That's my priority too. I'd like to work together on this. A short day might help in the short term, blah, blah, blah. Then you could suggest, could the OT be involved? Could we find out what times are harder for him? And it goes through a bunch of these questions. Questions and answers of what they might say. And again, you know, we can review these, and if you're the parent, you'll know if they're accurate or not. What I want to say here is, can you put the points in more casual language? I don't talk like this. So now it's giving us, I get it. I know it's really hard. Isn't that better though? Robin likes it. That's good.
Yeah, no, some of those sorts of strategies could really help parents and carers, because the schools can be challenging, and parents and carers often end up, you know, in a meeting with 10 professionals and the parent or carer. Most people have learned the hard way and bring a few people along with them if they can, but all of that requires extra administrative burden on them. So to sort of even have a little script in your hand, like you don't, it's not like you're going to read it out, but I think it just gives you some really good counterpoints to have a discussion. And once again, the human must remain in charge of it. Like you can't look at it and just read it or assume that everything it said is correct. But
That's right.
to me, it really looks like it looks like a meeting cheat sheet, as it says down the bottom, that it's, you know, capable of doing.
And I'm going to ask it just to say, is there any relevant legislation, I'll say in Victoria where I am, that would support his inclusion?
Wow. Gosh, if it can do this, that'll be.
Oh, it can.
Wow. Gosh.
Now, because this is paid, the references are probably pretty good. We can
Yeah.
always check them, but you can see, you know, these are probably, I won't click on them now because we don't have
Yeah.
time, but it gives you a whole thing.
Yeah, and the point is you must check the references, isn't it? You've
It
said that
is.
all
It
along.
is.
But to me, they certainly look, most of
Yeah.
those look accurate. And
Yeah.
you're probably not going to roll in with the whole lot of them anyway, because parents and carers realise that that will only make things
Exactly.
worse if they
Yeah.
look too expert.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's really interesting.
If there's anyone in the chat of our attendees who knows about this particularly and would like to comment, very happy we can turn you on so that you can talk. Just pop your hand up if you'd like to. I'm going to try one more thing. I'll do a new chat. This is one I'm going to use Lucas for again. I mentioned earlier that those filling in of forms, this is another form that we could do for him. I'm just going to say answer these
Caro
questions.
Bagley said the links are all correct, so that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Answer these questions based on Lucas's report for an OT application form. So this is from that form that I think I shared with you in the slides. It's a, oh, sorry, it's a real, going backwards, real online form that I borrowed. And let's see what it's doing. Here is a draft set of responses written in clear parent-style language, but grounded in his report findings, and it's showing me that it's referencing it. We want help to improve his fine motor skills. This is what he enjoys. This is what he struggles with. I mean, how easy is that? You don't have to labour through it. You don't have to labour through anything. Karen's put a quote in. I'll just make it that you can talk if you would like to. Karen, you're very welcome to have a comment because this is your area of expertise. Again, it's offering to paste this directly into it. I mean, you could try that. As Rochelle said, she's had success with that. I tend to copy and paste myself from this chat because sometimes it just shortens it a little bit too much. Any thoughts, Karen?
Can you hear me, Prue?
Yes, we can.
Oh, no, I was just going to say all of the disability education standards. I can't get rid of my horrendous picture there.
Don't worry, you look great.
That's okay. Yeah, all of those were correct.
Awesome.
And it is a little bit different sometimes when you have the free version. It's much more accurate when you have a paid version.
Yeah.
You can click through to those disability education standards, all of those links.
Yeah.
And if they don't give you a link, you say, can you give me a link? And
Yes.
then you can click through to them and you'll see whether or not they're official websites.
Yeah. We can do that here. I'm not sure if it's I'm looking at which chat I did it with. I can't remember. Here we go. So yeah, you can click through to
And
all of
it's
them.
great to be able
Oh.
to go into those meetings with that knowledge, with that kind of education rights-based knowledge.
Yeah.
Just so that, the school knows that you know what your child is entitled to in terms of their access at school. But I think that the other thing that I was thinking, Prue, is that the back and forward, the discussion of what might the school say and what can I say can be a really great thing to do to prepare yourself, because often those meetings can be really challenging emotionally when you're trying to advocate for your child. And so to be able to think through how the school might respond can give you just that little bit of extra time to think about how you're going to talk about that, but also process your emotions.
I 100% agree. I've, been in lots of meetings where, the school is saying, we really don't think your kid can go on camp. And parents, naturally, it's incredibly emotional. And then they start to share things that the school, you can just see the school going, we're just going to wait and contain them. They're upset. And they sort of stop listening a little bit. And so being able to process those emotions, but to have the prompts there so that you don't have to like go there quite as much. To be able to say, I know that you're concerned about safety, but it can be a bit of a protective barrier, I guess. It can also help professionals sometimes, especially, if you might have great professionals, but they might not be very experienced when they're sitting next to a very, a school head who's been there for 30 years, is used to managing families, and you've got a young OT helping you, but, you can be like, well, how do I get this across? Helping your OT have things ready to say can also be, helpful. The more preparation, you know what I mean? And so there might be some families who don't feel like they have the skills to do this, but they might be able to sit alongside one of their own professionals and use some of these tools, and if you're a professional, you might be able to say to a family, look, I can convert this into a school report for you. Particularly if I work somewhere where I can use Copilot and I can upload their whole report because it's clinically safe, it's a safe environment, we've checked all that out, and I can do some of this for you. And I think that's something I'd really like to see our allied health and other health professionals doing, and social work, all of that, to support families more. So I just have a couple of slides to share before we finish up. One is about AI and environmental considerations. AI is helpful, but it does use energy, data, water. It's difficult to know really the exact impact of doing a search on ChatGPT because there is information out there about how much energy it uses, but that is also based on the energy it used originally to teach and train AI, which was massive amounts of energy. Now that that's happened, I've not really been able to find out how much energy it might use just to run a query. I think one of the things for me, though, is that Google searches also take energy, and we don't really think about that. It might be that 10 Google searches and 40 clicks are equivalent to 1 or 2 chat searches. So everything's relative. It's about the balance. But it's good to be selective. Don't use it just over and over. Try and save it. If it comes out with something good, save it. You don't need to regenerate that over and over. Don't upload things that are too big that you don't need to do, and just use it wisely. So I guess the takeaways are, it can make life easier. It's good at summarizing information. It's good at understanding things. It can save a lot of time and reduce repetition and reduce really care burden, but always protect your privacy and make sure you know a bit about what you're using. So thank you very much. This is our details, and Viv will also paste this information in the chat. We'd love people to join the mailing list if you haven't already, and love to hear any feedback in the chat or any comments you might have. Viv, I'll hand back over to you to wrap up.
Thank you so much, Prue, for that wonderful presentation. Really interesting, especially for those of us who are still learning to get our heads around how to use this technology. Thank you so much, Louise, for taking the time, and all of the good feedback that you provided, and Karen too for coming on at the end, and to all of our attendees. Really wonderful that you've made the time to come. I've just posted our mailing list, a link to that, so please take a moment to sign up, and we'll be able to keep you updated with the webinars that are yet to come and any resources that we might create. And you can also visit our website. I put that up there too, where you can see previous recordings and other resources and the guidelines themselves. And of course, there's NoFASD as well, which is a wealth of information. Yeah, so this recording will be available soon, and we'll share it through the mailing list and on our website. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time today. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
We'll just let people leave if you want.